Well, hell. Welcome back to Tech Travel and Twang. Hi, welcome back to Tech Travel and Twang, our Tuesday Tea edition. I'm Jen Barbie with Destination Innovate. My co-host, as always, and cousin, Kristen Cruz. Hey, Kristen.
Good morning. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. I had to shake up that intro a little bit since we just reintroduced ourselves and let people know that we are actually a family-run owned business, which is super rare in our space.
It's super rare. And I'm so glad that we did a little reintroduction because it feels fresh, right? It feels like we've just come off like a little bit of a, I don't know, self-reflection. I don't know, reflection? I don't know if we just, I don't
Absolutely.
know.
And we have to take like extra credit and kudos for doing a dual photo shoot, which I think came out chef's kiss, 1,000 miles away from each other.
Oh my gosh, was that so much fun? One, I think just sitting down as as a duo, right? Running a business, and this is for anybody that's like running a business with somebody else, sitting down and really revisiting the why. Why are we here? Why are we doing this? Why does it matter? Why do we care? All those whys, right?
Mhm.
Doing that before you actually get into, okay, what does that visual look like? Like, what do we we call ourselves a little power couple, right? Like we're running a business. So we're like the new age business power couple, right? But what does that look like visually? I think that's what
Mhm.
helped us get to something we were really proud of. And the fact that we pulled that off, being in completely different spaces.
I mean, we were on
Um,
FaceTime quite a bit of that day just to get a one good shot, but that shot is so good.
It was so good and it was so fun. And honestly, we don't do that enough. We do not spend that kind of time on our business and on ourselves enough. Like I'm already ready to do more. Like what else do we need to do?
That's
What other
always
photos?
that is always the story, right? The cobbler's child has no shoes. So it's just
Right.
kind of total, but so when we get those, it is a lot of fun. So that was a fun Friday thing that we did. But yeah, I think
Yes.
we really want to kick off this conversation, and Chris and I've been talking about instead of these one and done podcasts, like you listen to this one topic and we've told you everything we possibly know and you never learn anymore. That's not how our brains work. That's not how people listen. So
Mm-hmm.
really, we're starting these conversations. So today's start of conversation is more about the broader responsibilities of a destination marketing organization and how that trickles down to different factions who may not see themselves as the DMO. But I really think this is only, and not even a start, probably we're in the middle of a very long conversation.
Absolutely. And I think what really kicked this off and what really got us talking about kicking this topic off again is the ways in which that we're working with DMOs today and how different those quote unquote DMOs are between the destinations that we're working with and why how the makeup of those destinations work matter in this in the industry essentially. And we're
Right, because
calling
I think
them DMO ecosystems because they are an ecosystem.
they really are. Because, before, and I hate to say the pandemic thing, so I won't say it, but I just said it. But before, it was really where's the tax dollar going? Where's the dollar going? Whoever that dollar is going to, that's the DMO, whether it be a CVB, a TDC, et cetera, et cetera. They control the narrative and they control the dollars. But now, like you mentioned with DMO ecosystem, it's not just about the dollars, it's about the appetite of the way socially things are changing. One really good example of, I think, an EDC taking some responsibility with DMO is a great one you could talk about, Kristen, in Texas.
Mhm. In Allen, absolutely. Yeah, I think that one of the things that makes a really great destination marketing organization ecosystem is the collaboration between a CVB, an EDC, a city, a chamber, all of these factors coming together, but sharing in the responsibility of the outcome. The dollar may be different depending on where it's coming from or where it's being allocated to, but essentially the goal and the results of what it is that you're going after is a shared, it's just shared ownership of what that looks like. And I think sometimes we tend to look at those KPIs very differently depending on the organization. But what I love about what Allen Texas does is they really look at it in a combined way. They really look at the whole destination lift, and not by who's contributing the dollar or where the dollar is coming from, but essentially by what contribution each organization can make to the generalized message
Mhm.
of why it's a great destination to live, work, play, visit, all of these different factors, because it is a very much a shared, message. And it is extremely important in today's, time frame where when you relocate to a place, whether it's for work, for family, whatever that looks like, you're not looking at just the factor of what a typical city relocation looks like. You're not looking at, okay, what are the home prices? What's the public school system look like? You're looking at things like, what am I closest to? What local services do I have access to? What attractions are there? Is my family going to want to come and visit me in this place because
There's
of these
so many
things that we've
more
got going on? The culture,
factors.
the arts, there's so much. Yeah, so
There
many
is.
factors.
And it's real interesting to look at it from that perspective too, especially since that mind shift this is really a more modern mindset that Alan is displaying. Because again, it's not just been about the dollars, but it's also about who can take credit for what, right? So it's been
Hmm.
about the EDC
Absolutely.
stays over here because what we do is we attract businesses who bring employees who have no choice of where to live, which is not the case anymore. You can have a huge
Right.
factory and still have a great big remote workforce. So what would be the benefit? So I think it's interesting to look at it that way, and I think Alan is really on the forefront, especially for a destination that size.
Hmm. Yeah, and you're seeing there's so much more. You're seeing so many more EDCs looking at things differently because of the amount of companies that allow a work from anywhere component. You don't necessarily have to relocate to work for a company in
Mm-hmm.
these days. So there's so much more that has to attract someone to physically move their themselves or their entire family, and they're looking at it long term. It's a long term situation. And so I think EDCs are really coming into that forefront of looking at it differently. But also there's so many that aren't. And this is why we're having this conversation.
Oh my
It
gosh.
there's still so many cities who don't talk amongst the organizations. They don't come together and create collaborative campaigns and collaborative messaging and put their dollars together to do bigger things. It's still very siloed, and that's going to continue to be a struggle for
It's
those
siloed,
cities.
I think from what we've seen play out too, it goes a couple of ways. It becomes siloed because again, not just the dollars, but also who takes credit for what. Because again, getting good credit, that's a lot of what feeds you when you're a civil servant. You're working in those kind of pieces. So it
Mhm.
becomes competitive. And I love what you said about a shared outcome. There's no incentive in a lot of these structures to work together at all. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite. How does the CVB do better than the chamber in something? How does it becomes toxic? And that is going to attract toxic travelers. That's going to create a toxic community. That's going to create toxic relocations. So kind of don't
Yeah.
have a choice anymore. Time to break it up.
Yeah. Right. Right. And so the question becomes, how do you do that? How do you go from a very uncollaborative environment in a certain city where you don't typically work with these DMOs don't work together like that. They have their initiatives, their boards, their mission, and they kind of independently go about it. So how do you pull
You
together
you
and create
pull.
an ecosystem?
I think you pull a Marvel Comics. You find a common enemy or a common problem that you have to solve for your destination, and then you end up collaborating with strange bedfellows, if you will, to get that done.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not be the ones we even listed out here. It may not be your normal chambers, EDCs, parks and
Right.
recs, cities. It could be a whole other type of opportunity collaboration. It could be a small artist circle. It could be so many different things. But I think a common problem that you can't solve on your own is a great place to start with. Where do I start my collaboration strategy?
Right. Right. I also feel like it really takes a
Are you going to say a
consistent
village?
problem. No,
Okay, good.
I I think if a destination can identify, and let's say you are someone in a destination marketing organization that is one of those people that's like, yeah, we should be collaborating more often. We could actually solve more of our problems together. But I don't know how to start that, or I don't know how to create that ecosystem of people wanting to play together. Find a common problem that can be solved somehow for each of the organizations in the destination and start contributing potential solutions. Start finding ways of pulling together. And sometimes it takes getting your board involved. I mean, I'm throwing out ideas, and I think one of the things that we're going to do, Jen, at some point is have DMOs on our podcast to talk through this. This is where this conversation continues to move through. And we hear from DMOs who are either in the trenches trying to do this now or have done a good job of this in the past. But essentially, where do you start? Like, is it finding a common problem and starting to find possible solutions and throwing those solutions out?
I think that's also if we go on the other side, like that's as we call it, because we're an agency, the client side, right? So, but if we flip on the other side, on the vendor side, on our side, there's also a need for a lot more collaborations. And I see that happening more and more because again, DMOs are constantly getting new, here's this new media, here's this new tech, here's this new thing.
Mm-hmm.
Agencies are constantly trying to block that or filter that through whatever lens they're having going on. There could be so much more collaboration and deduplication of effort in
Oh,
in just the
yeah.
vendor
Oh,
space.
yeah. And that could potentially be a conversation starter, I feel like. I feel like as a DMO, like let's say I get approached by, I'm not going to throw a tool name out there, but an XYZ new tool in the industry. And they come at me and they say, okay, this tool is going to cost you $50,000 a year. That's the subscription. And I say, okay, I don't have $50,000 a year, but I might have $20,000 a year. I could go out to my DMO ecosystem and say, hey, how this is something you guys could benefit from. What if we did a cost share? What if we all chipped in and
Mm-hmm.
we shared this subscription? Not only are we doing a cost share scenario, but we're also being very efficient with this tool. Right now, we all have access to this $50,000 a year tool, and our teams are being trained together, and it creates an even deeper level of ecosystem where your teams are actually working together.
And
Your
data
marketing teams, your
collaboration
social
too.
media team. Yes.
I love that data
Yes.
collaboration is becoming a thing also because that's another like evolution I'm happy to see because it was for I don't want this star report to be shared with the next city. Well, I can get information on anybody's star report anyway. So it was kind of
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
was a dumb proprietary feeling that people weren't sharing data.
Right.
But what's it matter? Share the data. I can get data. Anybody can get data on anything, anywhere, any place if they really wanted to.
Yeah, and why not share the data? At least among your city teams, right? Because for one, it's what's really frustrating, and this is something that I feel like I'm going through right now, is when you're pulling data for a particular, or you're looking for studies, or you're looking for research on a particular topic, and you're working within one destination and you're uncovering that this same destination has done three different versions of the exact same report with the exact same findings, but they each paid an exorbitant amount of money for this study. It's frustrating. Like, why would you not talk to each other?
I know I've uncovered a lot of that with some recent clients as well. And I just want to go back to like 1980 Susan Powder and yell, stop the insanity. It's just, sometimes it's crazy. What has been there? What's been shelved? What's never been utilized? What's never been revisited?
And that just goes back to the basic idea of just information sharing. Go to lunch once a month and be like, hey, what are you guys working on? Hey, what things are you guys, you know, getting into? What's on the, just having a consistent conversation can sometimes bring to the surface
And do that.
really important things like, hey, maybe we shouldn't all pay $100,000 for this one thing. Maybe we should pay it once and save $300,000. Yeah, it's like simple conversations that can result in extremely exorbitant savings. Like I'm
And
like, it's crazy to me.
absolutely. I love that. That's a really good point I want people to take home. But, and not just, yeah, when you say have coffee with them, I love that. But also not just in your community, in your city, but, reach out to a DMO leader at the same level you've never met 3,000 miles away. Hey, just want to introduce myself. DMO people are so willing to help other DMO people and willing to get on the phone. And
Mhm.
even with suppliers, if I'm like, I've got an idea, I'm not sure it's good, I don't know if I want to take it to market, I could probably get 3 or 4 DMO leaders to give me really good, honest feedback. So definitely have coffee with not just in your community, but like jump on Zoom once, twice a month with someone you haven't met yet.
Yeah, yeah. It's really nice to see how much more collaboration is happening, though, and how many more DMOs are willing to collaborate with each other, jump on
Mhm.
calls, go to lunch, have coffee, meet up at conferences, whatever. But it is really refreshing to see how much more is happening. It's just,
It's such a new era. And I know there's a lot of people my era, my age, my generation still in here, but it feels like they've refreshed too. Like some of the
Mhm.
very buttoned down DMO leaders I knew who are a little bit older than me at the very beginning of my career are now just the most open, welcoming, authentic people ever. So I just like seeing and looking back and seeing that we are at the point of unbridled collaboration if we so want.
Yes. Well, I think a lot of it is because I feel like I think about this more often now than I did earlier in my career. It's about purpose, I think. It's like, okay, we're all answering the question of why are we here? Why are we doing this, right? For our career, for our personal or for our professional lives, but personally, what's our purpose? Like, what are we giving? What information are we giving back? What learnings are we giving back? Who are we mentoring? And I
Did you
think,
help today? Yeah,
yeah, and I think there's, as you move through your career in the same industry, you look for ways of how can I make things better for the next generation of industry marketers and people coming into the industry fresh.
you have to revitalize your why. I think that's
Mhm.
a great point you made, but also a message to those of us listening who've been in the industry a couple of decades or longer, like Kristen and I have, is sometimes that why, if as long as the end of the day is, am I helping somebody? What am I doing? That why is going to change because the why, we're pulling something out, doing a cool campaign for one particular client today, maybe a completely different why next week of helping a different DMO
Mhm.
reach a different audience, or reach a different segment. So I think the why, I think that's okay as long as your goals stay really aligned. Your whys can fluctuate because I'm motivated by
Oh,
different things
yeah.
every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And plus our moods change. Like my mood one day may not be in a helpful, like, I'm going to contribute. It may be like, no, this is my me day. I am focusing on me and what I need, and I'm going to be selfish today. And tomorrow I'll be a little bit more giving. I feel like that, that has to change. Like you're just what you contribute and how that motivates you as a person
Mhm.
has to change. Otherwise, we would be so bored. We'd be so stuck. We wouldn't really be evolving as a people. It just, yeah.
Absolutely, life would not be as exciting as it is. But
Mm-mm.
and that's the why part comes back to the collaboration too. So why you might have gone to the EDC in the past might be a different why for this year or for future planning for 3 years from now. Like your why can change as well for your collaboration.
Mm-hmm. I think it has to because Our whys are also evolving because our industry is changing. Our what tools we have access to are changing. Our travelers are changing. So we have to evolve. We have to evolve our whys. I think it's good to kind of sit down too and collectively as a destination um, answer that question with your whole ecosystem.
With your whole
Why are
team,
we?
with everything you're doing,
Yeah.
why are we doing this? And if the answer ever is because we've always done it that way, whatever that is, go straight in the trash.
Exactly. Exactly. That kicks
Which is
off a
why,
whole.
which is why I always have to do a dumb sales plug in here, which is why we love doing our VIP days and our think weeks. Because if you don't know what needs to go in the trash, trust me, we'll tell you.
Well, that and it also it's about creating a space. I think the biggest issue is always, well, not always. I think the biggest issue that we most often uncover is that there's never a space created to start a why conversation or to create and cultivate those aha moments. It's like the space, and that's what the VIP and the Think Week does. It creates a space for essentially basically telling, or giving your team a reason or a
Mm-hmm.
space to say, why are we doing this? Why are we all here? Why are we in this room right now? What is our collective why?
And
And
if they
once you
feel,
create that space, then things start to
and for lack of a better word, a safe space, because a lot of people are coming
mhm,
in, and they come to those and they're clutching their stuff because they don't want to let go of their stuff because what's that mean to their job, to their stuff, or whatever. But again, your space is creating even a safe space. Like this isn't threatening anybody. Let's find better ways to do things.
mhm.
Then no one's clutching as much.
It's yeah, and also sharing ideas. Idea sharing, I feel like, is really important, but at the same time, it's not always the space to share ideas isn't always there for DMOs.
Hmm.
Because one, you're not sure. Again, there's that, you have this sense of like, um,
Come up with a new idea.
possessiveness.
You and
Yeah, like
and if you
I
come up
want to
with
own this.
that, and also I notice this mindset a lot. It's not just DMOs. This is really just kind of leading into corporate America. If you come up with a new idea, you got to do extra work. So it's also people are burned out. If it looks like work, they probably don't want to touch it. So how do you make it
Yeah,
not look like work?
exactly. Exactly. It's yeah, it's a difficult topic. But slowly, just we always say progress over perfection. Doesn't have to be like you start this and all of a sudden everyone's perfect in everything that they're doing and bringing to the table and the wheels are turning. It's just slow and steady progress.
It doesn't matter how slow you walk, you're still running laps around the dude on the couch.
Mm-hmm. Or doesn't, yeah, that's so true. You're
That's
still
that's
going
in my
faster
head.
than the guy on the couch.
That's been in my head while I'm trying to get my steps in every day lately. So to remind me of that's my
It's so
man.
true. It's so true.
Well, I love the start of this conversation again. Maybe not a start, maybe a middle, but I would love to hear from other DMOs. If you know any guests, we're super open for a call for guests on these kind of conversations and dig
Hmm.
in with even more tea on what are some common challenges, what are some common solutions in a seamless collaboration strategy for your DMO ecosystem.
Absolutely. I think that's what we need. We need to hear from those that are in the trenches every day. What is not working? What has worked? What are you currently trying to figure out? And there may even be some new challenges that we're not even aware of, in the DMO space, that we could bring up. So yeah, I feel like having some of those deeper conversations with our DMO friends would be really important to this. And even
Absolutely.
some of the stakeholders that are in the destinations too, that are seeing this from a different perspective, that are seeing the collaboration or the lack of from a different perspective. Because again, when you're talking about a destination marketing organization, you also have to think about major players in the destination and their marketing teams that also make up a big factor of how people are coming into a destination, especially those that, that are, you have certain destinations that rely solely on huge
I,
attractions
I think we're going to see
for
an
their,
evolution of these organizations. I really
Mhm.
do. Because when you look at a lot of DMOs still being membership driven, and you've got chambers, and that is an antithetical, situation, and you have CVBs somewhat responsible for people that come in and whether people decide to move or live there or whatever. So I kind of feel like we're going to see a big evolution in the types of organizations, just like we've seen in HR and corporate America. We've seen a big shift in how they deal with people. Now I think we're going to have to look at how cities and destinations and regions
Mhm.
deal with people, not just travelers, not just residents, not just, but
Yes,
what is the people marketing organization? Write
right.
that down. We just did PMO, Kristen.
People marketing organization. That's so true. Because the other thing that we haven't really talked about, which I do want to dig into on a future podcast, is when you're talking about DMOs, we haven't even touched on the downtown groups,
Mm.
the
Or
main
the
streets,
or the arts
those
and
or
cultures, or those little
yes.
actions in there. No.
There are entire destinations, right, that are reliant on their downtown being
Mhm.
vibrant and lively and full and busy and programming on point and seasonality, and so that's a whole different organization. And I will tell you, one of the biggest things I hear when there is a destination like that with a downtown is the friction between the DMO and the downtown group, because there is a lot of overlap. You're marketing collectively a space within a destination, but one feels like that's my entire job, right? Like this is my entire ecosystem. And the other's like, okay, well, it's maybe 50% of my ecosystem, but you're still overlapping. And
And that's
how do
where
you
I
do
talk
that?
about the duplication of effort. And I know neither one, because
Mhm.
there's jobs, attached to both
Right.
those. But do you need both things? Is that the most strategic thing to do? Or can you collapse and combine those things for a bigger, broader strategy, and maybe look at collaboration
Mhm.
outside of your own competition, looking at collaborating with lifestyle brands and collaborating with those who have pockets and no dog in the hunt?
Right.
We could
Love
definitely
this
talk.
topic.
I was gonna
There's
say we
so
could
much
probably,
we can dig into.
this could be a 6 hour podcast, but I think that's enough to whet the appetite. So we'll leave you guys at this pausing point. Pick up next Tuesday. We've got some new, really big, exciting guests coming on as well. So y'all be good to each other.
Absolutely.